Apu Productions presents r/askreddit. What is the one fart you regret more than any other farts you farted? In a two-person cockpit, there's kind of an unwritten rule not to rip, but because it's such close quarters and the other pilot knows exactly who did it. Anyways, up at altitude, Boyle's law causes a lot of uncomfortably, and the only way to relieve the pressure is to try to bury a fart into the seat and hope it doesn't get out. I've become a pro at making sure whatever I gotta do stays in the seat. One time I was flying with an old crotchety captain, and I let one get past the guards. It filled the cockpit air with a momentary dank smell. The old duck looks over at me and tells me that, since it's okay for me, then it's okay for him too. The next couple hours are filled with the most rancid old man meat filled farts I've ever experienced in my life. Was sleeping over at my boyfriend's house. It was late at night, so I was the only one awake, and I had to fart, so I did. It was the longest and loudest one I think I've ever had. I could literally feel my ass deflate afterwards. The next day I'm talking with my boyfriend and he goes, "Hey, I remembered something from last night," and I ask what. He says, "So I was sleeping, right, and I wake up to hear someone ripping glass for like 20 minimums." He then adds, "I bet you woke up my dog," and moaning about how I've scarred his bed. But wait, it gets better. Couple days later he mentions it to his mother, and she tells him that it woke her up, and she knew it wasn't him farting, because he's not nearly that loud. I used to drop stench bombs with relative impunity in my cubicle at work. Fairly intense up close but dissipating quickly. This one, though. It felt hot already inside my intestine, a bad sign. Letting it go was deathly silent, and it honestly felt like someone was aiming a stealth head rear at but as it made its untimely exit. I hadn't experienced this until that day, but the wave of reek was almost palpable. The air was practically shimmering like hot tarmac. I watched/smelled the wave crawl in slow motion up the cubicle wall and flow over to my neighbor's space. Poor woman. At the exact second I expected it, I heard, "Oh my god," from one cube over. I tried to apologize, but it stuck in my throat like a goddamn vitamin, lodged there and tasting hella nasty. She didn't come back for 10 minutes. She didn't bring it up, but I wasn't ever able to look her in the eye again. I was offshore for work and my stomach was still in that adjustment phase. I was never close to shutting myself, but that gas was some ish that would have been banged by the Geneva Convention. My coworkers and I got into this workout then steam and sauna phase when we got back to the hotel every morning. I liked the steam room steamy and planned a prank. Partly froze a bottle of water to really chill the sensor and crank the steam room to the next level. I got to the steam room first and felt a gurgling, walked into the room, blasted one, let out a squeaker in the sauna for good measure and headed off to pee so they wouldn't expect me. Now we were in Southeast Asia, so it wasn't unusual to encounter a strange smell, so nobody was really talking about the fart. I poured a little of my super chilled water on the sensor to kick up the heat and the steam started pouring out. The steam angered the fart. The stench just got magnified the more steam poured into the room. It had different nuances at different elevations. It was spicy in some corners, herbal in other, outright acidic next to the steam jets. And the steam kept pouring in. It was getting hard to see, impossible to breathe, and now that the air had substance you could full on taste my gas. Once it got hard to really see in the room, I dumped the rest of the chilled water on the sensor wire. Little chunks of ice even got stuck. The steam would not stop. We eventually got to a point where it hurt to breathe because it was too hot. The funk had hit a sulfurous phase and even I was getting close to vomiting from my own stench and bailed to the sauna. Fart and wood and lava rock. The sauna smelled and tasted what I imagine Pompeii did the day Vesuvius blew. Choking from the steam. No relief in the sauna. We gave up on the sweat. I checked the steam room a few hours later. There was a maintenance sign up. Steam was still pouring out, and the fart was still alive. In the sauna you'd think someone had spit on the rocks. I swear it was just the air from my insides. Next day both the sauna and steam room were closed. The steam room smelled like they just backed a bleach truck up, filled and drained the room. The sauna had some incense burning, and I'm assuming the scented water for the next few weeks was to make sure whatever caused that smell never came back. 2 days later I ducked up the sauna again when bending over to get my water bottle that fell. The smell was instant and immediately recognizable. My coworkers threatened to mention the gas anytime I talked to a woman. Luckily my stomach eventually adjusted. My girlfriend at the time complained that I wasn't comfortable around her because I never fart around her. I laughed at her and told her the next time I had to fart I would. So while having sex, as she was going down on me, I felt the urge to fart. I thought it'd be funny to fart in her face, so I did. She immediately stopped and started crying. The ridiculousness of the whole thing, unfortunately, made me laugh hysterically. I kept trying to console her, but apologizing for farting in her face after she asked me to fart the next time I needed to was just too much for me. I regretted it after, because I felt bad I made her upset. But now I only half regret it. I will never do that again, and I was fairly young at the time, but it's still kind of funny. The greatest fart story ever told. I'm about 6 feet 7 inches, so even when I'm just trying to be friendly, that is not farting on a stranger kid's head, and meeting a family member's or friend's kid for the first time, I've noticed they get very hide between their mother's legs, intimidated on sight if I'm not sitting down. So it's not hard for me to silence/intimidate a child, especially when I'm trying to. However, a few times I've been called out. One time I was pretty drunk with a friend at a Target buying Risk, and no, we never finished playing the whole game. This little Mexican 5 to 7-year-old with a mohawk was being an insufferable little spit in the action figure section. I heard him from like 5 aisles over, and it was like nails on a chalkboard. I tell my friend, I'm gonna fart on this kid's head. Watch and learn. I saunter on over to the aisle in question and see the vile little prick calling his mom an idiot for not buying him a huge ducking G.I. Joe the movie vehicle, which peed me off even more considering how awful that movie was. Buy some good toys. I already bought that one for you, and you broke it by throwing it down the stairs. Shut up. I need it. It's the only one I don't have now. The mother was younger than me, I'm mid-20s, and gave a defeated look. I don't have enough money right now. You are an idiot, and continued to just berate and publicly shame this woman. At the time, I was on a strict Chipotle carnitas burrito diet, and while I was watching all this, my stomach gave me an initial warning gurgle, very courteous stomach, telling me I was about an hour away from punishing the toilet. Serendipity. Destiny. I inch a bit closer to my prey, inspecting some wrestling toys, and pondering the weird homoeroticness of the whole sport in general. The kid shouts, "Duck you, I hate you." The mom rolls her eyes and turns her back to the kid to ignore him. And could you believe it? The kid gets on his hands and knees and starts taking the toy out of the box. It's go time, Methursaka. I position my back towards him, and at this point, I'm like 2 feet away from him. His head is down, getting frustrated with those goddamn twisty tie things, and I go for the kill. I bend down to reach for the one of the toys on the lower shelf. At this point, my bum is inches away from this kid's head. Now, generally speaking, the best way to go about this is to act casual, drop your belly bomb, then walk away after a few seconds like nothing is out of the ordinary. I usually go one aisle over and listen to the kid's reaction in delight. However, today I couldn't help myself. I have my head tilted back looking at this kid out of the corner of my eye to ensure accuracy. I'm so close that from a distance it looks like I'm about to sit on him. My friend sees this happening and can no longer contain himself. He's covering his mouth, but his hee-haw hyperventilating donkey chortle is fairly audible over the late 90s pop music playing on the loudspeakers. The kid immediately looks up towards the laughter, but can't help but notice there is a gluteus maximus now directly in his face. Now, I'm trying not to laugh, but also panicking as I just made eye contact with him. He furls his brow and I look over in the mother's direction, still back towards us. I relish in the moment and the look on this child's confused and naive face. The initial blast was mighty and boisterous. I swear I saw his hair blowing in the wind, so to speak. If I wasn't wearing jeans, I think it could have probably blown over an empty soda can. I would call it a very fun fart. A++ would buy again. However, what immediately followed that out the chamber was truly horrifying. The fart's implication changed without notice and swiftly. It went from a joyous dry air horn squeal to a nefarious, hissing mephitis. I think the little moppet noticed the hateful metamorphosis before even I did, because he wrenched his neck violently trying to get away from the personified evil being fumigated into his soul. Because of his positioning, hovering over the toy, hands, and knee, it was all in vain as the only way out was forward, and forward would mean certain death. I had positioned myself well on the higher ground, free to escape or relent at any time, and him, poor and immobilized, biding his time until the cruel attack was over. Obviously, this child needed to reread Sunti's edu. In total, it lasted about 4 seconds, but for that kid, it must have seemed like time was frozen. The long-term severe brain damage which he no doubt suffered only added to that effect. When I finished with my business, that is forcing a little boy to huff my farts, there was a silent pregnant pause. The kid was clearly shocked and stunned. No one had ever stood up to this dwarf sociopath in his whole life. I had taken the words out of his mouth and filled it with fart. I make my move first, picking up the toy I was reaching for off the low shelf, take a few steps forward, and stare at it for a few seconds. Onto alligator. The only thing the kid could manage to do was burst into tears. My friend senses danger, the jig is up, and his head darts for cover. The mom turns around to see her kid with an open toy, crying on the floor, and me minding my own business. She walks up to him and asks what's wrong, but the kid can't speak. All he gets out is, "Baller or fart baller." It took every fiber in my body not to laugh. I put the toy back on a middle shelf, turn around, give a final nonchalant look-see, and then begin to take my exit. Sensing that his assailant was getting away scot-free, he somehow managed to compose himself for a moment. He shouts, "He farted on me." I could feel him pointing at me, but I continued to act like I was just browsing. I was almost around the corner when the mom goes, "Excuse me, sir." I turn around nonplussed. Who? Me? While pointing to myself. Yes. Did you just fart on my son? Weighing my options, I played dumb. What? I mean, I did fart. On my son? Well, I mean, technically speaking, what is on? Why did you fart on my son? At this point the little kid has the look of schadenfreude on his face, happy to see me in trouble. Duck you, I'm a man. I will fart on you if I please. I turn my attention to the little kid and stare at him, because the whole store could hear him being a little rotten sasshole to his mother, so I thought I'd come over here and treat him like one. The mom looks at me, her son in the scattered G.I. Joe /wrappers box on the floor. The mom is puzzled as to what to do and says, just go. That's my cue. I turn around, walk away with little extra step. I look up to see the black orb of security cameras and all the stories on Reddit about unjustly having to register as a sex offender flash before my eyes. As soon as I turn the corner, I book it outside as fast as I can, while dialing my friend. Like a true friend, he is right out front with the engine running, and Risk in the trunk. We laugh on the car ride back about the whole scene. With a slight hint of seriousness in his tone, my friend asks me, "Do you do that a lot?" Not that much. Like once every 6 months or so. We both knew I was lying. We got to our other friend's house, played Risk until 4 in the morning while drinking scotch. Overall, I would say it was a pretty good day. You/Rubahad. You did it. You made it to the end of the video, friend. Please like and subscribe for more hilarious content.